Now, if I was to say to you bodybuilding, what imagery would that conjure? For most people at a CrossFit gym, we think of fake tan, Speedos, and chest and abs. Now, you're not completely wrong there, but in the context of what we do, bodybuilding is a necessary, essential for joint health, for repair, for recovery, and for growth. Now, you've heard it called many different things, accessories, bulletproofing, whatever. But effectively, it's the same thing. So what I tend to do each week is a bodybuilding session where I will look at my development areas, my joint health, what's been, falling behind a little bit recently. Over the course of the year so far, obviously we had the Open earlier on the year. Throughout the summer, I go through more of a power phase, get a little bit more liberal with my intake and food and nutrition. I give myself a target of competing in powerlifting every September, October time, give me a bit more of a target to go for using that power. And we've always said, try and use it, learn and play new sports. The whole point in CrossFit and what we do at the affiliates is to put it out there, to test it outside of the gym, not for the sake of being in the gym. So what I tend to do each year is challenge myself to a power competition around September, October time. This year, however, I threw in a high rocks with my good friend John. And we did that high rocks a few weeks ago now. And what that did for me, it allowed me to keep in check my nutrition and dial it in a little bit more towards the aerobic capacity. Now, me, I favour that power. So my training was interval-based, predominantly on the ski erg and the bike erg and the echo. Now, for the last few weeks since high rocks, I've been thinking about the Open. We've got 16 weeks, I think it is, till the Open kicks off now. For me, I need to think about my joints. I need to think about my gymnastics. Now, I'm not too bothered about when the deadlifts come up or the power cleans or the FS squats or the thrusters. I'm not too concerned about that. The one thing I am concerned with in that frontal plane is my knee health. I've had troubles with my knees in the past, like many, many, many of you listening. Knees are or can be an issue if not looked after. So one of the movements I'm about to show you in the video is for that joint health. If you've ever heard of sissy squats, they predominantly focus on those quads. And a lot of the time, not every time, but a lot of the time, we can help with knee health by looking at the quads and the tib muscles at the front of the lower leg. And if we address that and we bulletproof the back of that knee joint, if we strengthen up the back of the knee, it can offset some of that pressure through the front and the patella, and it can actually alleviate pain and allow us to train better and therefore feel like we've got healthier knees, which is always an important part of our training. So one of the exercises I'm going to show you is just that. That'll be the first one. After that, throughout the session, I'm looking at my shoulders. I'm looking at my posterior, my upper back. How can I increase my range of movement? How can I do that in a bulletproofing or bodybuilding session? Now, a lot of people will follow a program and every now and again you'll do a movement where you're like, what is that? And one of those movements that transfers over a lot from powerlifting is called the Bradford press. Now, the Bradford press is where you don't need a heavy bar. Empty barbell is absolutely fine and more than adequate for most people. We go from the front rack position to the back rack position with fluid movement. We touch and go. We touch the front of the shoulders and the back of the shoulders. As soon as we felt that contact, we keep moving. What we're imagining is you've got a box over your head and you're trying to stay as tight to the head as you can, obviously without making contact. This will test your range of movement throughout your shoulders, your mobility, and your ability to move with muscular endurance. This is an incredible tool that I don't see many CrossFit programmers using. It's good for joint health, it's good for power, it's good for muscular endurance, and it's a really easy exercise to undertake. So if you haven't had a go at Bradford press, give that a go. Now, the last one on my list that I've got here, well, I've got two. I've got ring dips, but I don't really need to go into ring dips. I think everyone understands that. It's a great way to think about positioning, balance, coordination, as long with that joint health and that power. It's a really good exercise for bulletproofing days or bodybuilding days. The last one that I am going to show on here is the reverse fly. Now, I'm bending over. I'm trying to keep as tight as I can and as firm as I can throughout the whole body. I'm getting a good base pushing through the floor and I'm opening up my shoulders at the back. I'm not thinking too much about pinching my shoulder blades. often we find if people are thinking about the shoulder blades, they're not actually thinking about the right muscle groups that we're trying to activate. So I'm trying to get my rear delts here, trying to open up my shoulder. Now, you don't want to open up your elbow too much. That puts way too much pressure through the bicep and through the front part of the shoulder, which we don't really want to do. So there's a slight kink in the elbow. We're getting the most bang for our buck with our muscular activation through there. Again, you don't need to go too heavy. One point of performance I look at for myself, if I'm ever looking at it on video, is I'm trying to make sure I'm not wobbling my head too much. You might see Big Larry and Massive Dave at the gym down the road wobbling around with a big heavyweight belt and the stringers, doing all the noises. That's totally unnecessary, and it was something that UK S&C introduced about 20 years ago. But it's just habits, it's just behaviours. So one thing I'm looking for in there is staying rock solid and making sure that we're getting some really good drive and pausing if you can at the top end of the movement. So there are 4 exercises that I'd really encourage people to work into their routine, especially those of you that are programming for yourself. Have an accessory day, and this is a really good opportunity to keep moving on one of those active recovery days where we're not looking to go too heavy, we're not looking to just stay still. We want to get in the gym, we want to get moving, but it can be massively a huge part of our training, especially up towards the open. During the open, we're going to see those very, very familiar exercises. We're probably going to get upside down with wall walks or handstand push-ups. We're going to be hanging from the bar, going, salmon-y, flapping around on that barbell. And we're going to be looking at the overhead squats. So we're looking at really good joint health leading into the open and making sure that we maintain that. So now is that time that we can do that. So have a look at these movements. See if you can operate and if you can move well under a bit of load with these, but start off nice and light and see if you can make improvement in these. I guarantee these will make a massive, massive improvement in your joint health if you continue long term. Nice one, guys. See you soon.